Bonnie McInerney Slater.
Here.
Deborah Addy here. Dennis Szymanski.
Here.
Joanne Shirkey.
Here.
Joe Bozy. Here. Samantha Burnham.
Here.
Brian Treppa.
Here. You need this? Approval or amendments to the agenda?
Motion to approve. I'll second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Approval for
I
minutes
did.
for the meeting January 19th, 2022.
Go ahead and make the motion to file.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Or not motion, but- All right, preface. The Clay Township Zoning Board of Appeals, or ZBA, primarily addresses practical difficulty based on lot size, location, shape, or contour, and/or location of existing buildings. We are guided by section 27.05 of ordinance number 126. There are 5 members on the ZBA, all of whom are present tonight. At least 3 members must vote affirmatively for a motion to grant a variance. 3 members constitute a quorum. Each appeal before the ZBA will have a public hearing, at which time the applicant will first present his or her case, and a public comment regarding that issue will follow. During this time, members of the board may ask questions of clarification. If a particular point gets belabored, the chairperson has the right to limit comments. When the public hearing is closed, the board will move on to deliberation of the particular variance request. If the applicant should disagree with the board's decision, he or she has the right to take it to circuit court within 30 days of the decision. When your appeal hearing is concluded, you are welcome to leave or stay as you wish. All right, so new business. We have JZBA 2022-001. The address is 7948 Anchor Bay Drive. Someone here to represent that?
Yes.
Can you just,
Mark Third, I'm home.
well, come up here and state your name and address, please.
Mark Third, homeowner, 7948 Anchor Bay Drive.
Can you give us a brief?
Yeah, basically, my seawall went, so I had the seawall replaced, and to do that properly, I tore down an existing, probably 50-year-old structure, garage, and I want to replace it with a 2-story structure. My wife and I just moved here. We moved from a house in Shelby that has a basement. I'm going to retire this year once I get this project going. And basically, it's going to be used as a garage and the upstairs storage, and I'm going to just have some woodworking stuff up there. That's why I want the 2 stories, just to have the extra space.
Okay.
Making some improvements to the neighborhood, and there's similar structures on the street. So I don't here to address any other questions that anyone may have.
Your house looks newer. Is it fairly new?
2018. We bought 2017.
It was a year old when you bought it?
No, I built.
Oh, you built it, okay.
There was a pretty old dilapidated structure there, and we tore that down and built.
I couldn't tell by the plans exactly. Does the boathouse match your house?
I don't know if it's called a boathouse or not. There is no, it's on the canal side, yeah. Yeah, that's the intent. So same siding, white trim. It'll match the house.
I saw somewhere you had some notes that it was exactly like something down the street from you. What was that at?
Yeah, not the elevation, but the footprint is, I went up and down the street and drove for anything that was over 2 stories, but there's a friend of mine on the street, and I basically copied his plan. He bought a plan off the internet, but I actually had an architect draw up mine with the elevation and everything. So the footprint, the dimensions, everything are the same, but it'll be trimmed out differently. And his lot is a 50 50-foot wide lot as well, so it's,
So, Gary, the building official, said that, it's not scalable. Is there a exact measurement that you're going to be over that 15-foot high for the variance? Do you have that, do we have that written down somewhere? We have it that you you're exceeding the 15-foot, by how far? Do we know?
I don't know, but I can get that to you very quickly.
I think it's 12 feet.
My builder, I asked my builder that last week, in case I was
Yeah,
asked
but
this
it's
question.
still, it's not,
Exact.
we're giving you a variance for a height variance, and I'd like to know what what the variance, you know what I mean, the exact, what we're gonna give
This is
you,
what I
if everyone approves.
Approximately.
Well, that's the mean, yeah, see, that's an approximate one.
Right.
Well, if you look at just going off of this, because this is what we're gonna be,
Well, the overall height is 27 feet, but that's
right.
not gonna matter. We need the story 15 feet is the notes from Gary. And I'm trying to read real quick to see. Gary, do you know by chance?
The approximate mean height
Yep.
being proposed is 22 feet. approximately.
Okay, that's it, 22 feet. That's what I was after. So 7 feet
Thank you,
high.
Gary, because I did not have
Well-
that. Thank you.
Sorry, I just open up public comment? You can say that for 1 second.
Sure.
Can I open up public comment? Would you guys wish to speak on this?
No, I'm.
You guys good?
Trying to observe the process. I'm gonna try to go.
Oh, okay. All right, so I'm gonna close, it usually doesn't, I will never be late again in my life. I'm gonna close public comment.
Getting deep in here.
Can I ask Gary a couple questions? Could you just have a seat for 1 second,
Sure,
please?
no problem.
Gary, so you're mad at, not mad, I'm not, I'm
He's
sorry.
irate.
You brought him in front of us for the 15-foot or the second story? What are we, both, okay.
The ordinance 3.01 talks about 15-foot mean height and also talks about 1 story in height. So both of them are being, they're asking for variance on both of those actually. Because it's more than just being 22-foot mean height, and even with any height exception, still allows you to be up that high, with height exception, but the second story is still a whole different animal.
Did you explain, not saying you have to, but did you explain to him the 6'11" second story height, or
7'11".
or 7'11"? I'm sorry.
No, 6 foot, under 7 foot.
Yeah, that's
Oh, yeah,
what I
yeah,
thought.
yeah.
6'11". I
Yeah.
thought that's what.
I don't know if we talked about that in conversation, but
Okay.
Now, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
On the means,
My God.
how would, I thought when you do the means, figuring out the means calculation, you're doing it for the main structure and not from the dormers. Because if you do it from the main structure, just by looking at this, is that the means is not the 22-foot.
you've got to look at the plan.
Well,
If you
I'm-
look at the plan, you'll see that what you're referencing right there talks about 2 really winged areas that are 4 inches or 4 feet wide or something. The bulk of the building, the bulk of the second floor is what I'm going to go after. I'm going to look at the total height of the walls and then split that difference on the roof line between the eaves and the peak. So there's 2 different views of that roof that you'll want to look at, and really not talk about the other one. Then the measurements end up being relatively the same, but it would be inaccurate for you to look at it from that angle.
In the past, Gary, we have looked at it like that.
Okay.
That's why I'm going to defend it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We have
I mean,
looked at
these- when we
the
talk about
main
dormers,
structure, not
they're-
dormer.
When we talk about dormers, we're talking about full-size walls, and we're talking it going across the majority of that building, so.
All right, because I would be considering this right here, and this mean height right here.
Right, so
Is that what, now? No?
Well, no, those 2 numbers are going to be relatively close. I'm
Are you
losing
doing
in the
this mean
roof
height?
line. Those two come in about the same, but I'm given the credit to go up to the full two-story and then work the roof line from there versus one story and then look at that roof line. It's still going to end up being real close to being the same as far as the mean height is concerned. You'll find that if you calculate it both ways, and I could do that for you and show you that that number is pretty accurate either way that you look at that on this particular structure. But all numbers are approximate, obviously.
If this were, if you would have had labeled it 6'11" and different storage, would he even be here?
Yes, he would be
Okay.
here because he exceeds the mean height of 15.
Still, okay.
With the 6'11" ceiling height on the second floor, then we wouldn't classify that as a floor. So that portion of it wouldn't be an issue because it's underneath what habitable space, habitable room height defined by the state code allows. So that's where the minimum 7 foot comes into play.
Right, that's what I was.
So we'd still be here because of the mean height.
Okay. Just so I, understanding for everybody here too.
Gary, because you know that blue one that has the let's just say like the turret up above on the third part of it down Anchor Bay Drive? We gave them a variance for this. And it was, I mean,
that was before.
way
me.
before, yeah, it was before you.
Is that the one with the rounded?
Yes, and it's very tall, you know what I mean? And with that turret above it, makes it look taller.
I know.
I
know. Generally when we're looking at things, and not so much of that because I know what you're talking about, but when we talk about cupolas or that sort of thing, those are not equated, in that height of a building. No matter what, we don't include that.
The overall height is what I was trying to say to you. The overall height, is it not? No. So we're after the second story and the mean, and the 50, over the 15-foot mean height.
Correct.
Now, so it's, doesn't show, your plot plan doesn't show the actual, where the garage or boat, it just shows the site plan and not actually where it's gonna sit on the property, unless this one that's on here.
Down at one point.
I think I saw it on one of them.
On the
So this is actually,
on the survey,
this is actually the proposed one right
on
here?
the survey.
Well,
It's on the
There was
bottom.
another sheet too.
It's on the bottom of that sheet.
yeah, right here. So this is the proposed one.
Because when I looked at it, it looks like there were no variances needed for setbacks or anything like that.
Right.
You know, I'm about, I think, 3 feet on the side, I'm going 4. My neighbor's shed is on my property.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's nice of you, Lou.
Well,
I get along
That might
with
be
neighbors.
What?
they're not even showing that shed.
No, I see it.
No,
Yeah, they're-
but he said he moved this over to 4 foot, but there's no shed showed right there.
On my neighbor's.
Other side.
This one here? Then why isn't the garage way over here? What's that? That doesn't make any sense. That's what I'm saying. Is this the old survey? The one you tore down?
Oh, can I approach? and
Yeah,
look at
that's why I'm saying
There
this
was
is,
another drawing that had the new.
I looked, I don't see anything where it shows it on the property.
Yes, this is
original.
This is my original survey
Right.
from, so the house was tore down, this garage was tore down this year, and that shed. So, that's my original survey. Here's the
Oh,
plot
I see.
plan.
Here you go. Here's a site plan right here. Okay. 4 foot on one side and 12 on the other.
On
Okay.
the 4 foot side, there is a garage slash shed,
You got all this?
several inches on my.
Okay.
I don't think that's on them.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That didn't make any sense there.
Sorry, I
That's,
forgot what I turned in.
All right,
yeah.
correct. Anyone want to read through what he wrote, like some of his practical difficulties to see if
What
that's
is the
something you guys agree
what
or
is
don't
the
agree
prac-
with?
What is the practical difficulty?
No,
Are we set with Gary, so he doesn't have to,
I think so.
everyone, we're good? Thank you very much for,
I think when
Can-
dealing with anchor
can you
bay,
come back up for 1 second? Just, not you, Gary, I'm sorry. Just in case we have another.
I think in the past, often, when looking at Anchor Bay Drive, we've looked at the unusual sizes of the lots, the fact that the property is split by a road in the middle. I mean, there's a lot of unusual things that could lead you to need a variance down there.
It's definitely usually the unique, circumstance of having both, like Bonnie just said. But it is a narrow lot, typically all of them are narrow.
What's the practical difficulty for this second story?
Yes,
I understand the lot size.
yeah, you asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, trying to understand
Or
the question. So the way I responded to that, the practical difficulty is just for me, for moving there and coming out of a house with a basement, I want some extra space. So what really drove me to demo that old garage, it was old and my seawall was gone. So I had the seawall replaced, and in order to put the tie-back rods there, I said, let's just do this right. So now I'm rebuilding, and I want to have a garage to park a vehicle and store a boat. And then the second floor, I don't have any space to do my woodworking when I retire. So that's basically the thing. So the practical difficulty, the way I'm responding is due to me, and I'm improving, bringing value by rebuilding something new, bringing value to the neighborhood. Kind of tore down some stuff that wasn't looking too nice. And I don't know if this matters or not, but I'm building similar structures that are already there. I mean, the footprint is identical to another dwelling on that street. So, that's basically why I'm requesting. I'm not sure I understand the language on practical difficulty.
The ordinance says a one-story per garage.
Right. So that's,
the Clay Township ordinance, and I'm wondering what the practical difficulty is. I know you want that, and there's other places on the road. I understand the lot size or the overall shape of the garage, but not the second floor.
so let me try again. If the lot was bigger, I mean, it's just the language of the question, practical difficulty. The practical difficulty is to me. If the lot was larger, I'd build it all one story and be within the ordinance. It isn't. So to get the usable space, that's what I'm proposing, is go 2 stories. And that's why I'm in front of the board.
We've had other second floors,
Obviously. Yeah.
and not that height.
No, we've had actually,
We've
Colony.
had Colony's got a lot
way
bigger
longer
than that.
and bigger, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, that's-
Colony's a different circumstance too,
But also very similar.
yeah.
Right.
I was gonna say, if this was a setback issue, it'd be a no-brainer.
Well,
the
at one
on the
point-
island- The one on the island, we were almost making that, the guy make it 6'11", wasn't it, just a few months ago?
Okay, so there's the thing though. So what do you want to focus on? You want to focus on the means height variance, or you want to focus on the up second story?
This wasn't the second story, so you don't put a bathroom in there or something?
Well, the second story is considered, when they do an 8-foot ceiling like that, now it's considered habitable.
Right.
So, and far as how we're going to keep it on the books and everything else, they want a garage type of thing like this to have uninhabitable space, legally terms. Whether or not people do something with a 7-foot ceiling is a different story, but in an 8-foot, that's considered habitable space, and the ordinance is stated it's got to be less than 7 feet. So if he did in theory, theoretically, if you did 7-foot walls, if you do drywall flooring, to be at 6'10", that's considered storage.
Right.
So where do you want to focus on? Do you want to focus on the means height?
Well, I think they're one and the same.
Well,
No, you can do one or the other.
right.
he can still get his structure and bring his ceilings down to 6
Right.
foot 11.
And if he did, then it's not considered a second story, correct?
Correct.
So the issue.
But we
is
can't
one
tell
person-
him that, you know what I
No,
mean,
but-
to do that. He's not asking for us to, he's
Right.
asking for the 8 foot. But there's, well, Dennis, I don't mean to keep talking for anybody or explain it, but Dennis is like, I think you can have, you know, like you're with me, you can have the second story, bringing it down to the 6 foot 11, and that's not an issue, but it's still the mean height issue, the over the 15 foot. And I know this is, you know, unique for this property, and, you know, we have done these in the past for a garage on the opposite side of the street as the house on Anchor Bay Drive, and we have allowed 8 foot ceilings.
If it were brought down to 6 foot 11 though, wouldn't that change the mean height and possibly make it acceptable?
Not without exact numbers, I couldn't
Right.
promise you that. And no, because you're only gonna drop it down a foot, and I don't see where you're gonna lose 7 feet.
Well,
Because the mean height right now is 22 feet.
Right.
Approximate. So by dropping it, you're not, you know, and Gary's reading the blueprint differently than we've had in the past. You know what I mean? So the mean heights in the others might not be the same.
well, I don't see how even possible it could even be 22 feet, because if you're taking 9 foot, looks like 2 foot trusses, maybe 11, 8. It looks like the whole height of the building is 23, 24 feet height, period. You know, just go and look at the scale, so that you have 5 foot, as far as from here, from the top of wall to the top of truss, and 8 is 13, 9 foot wall, let's say 2 foot trusses, you're talking the whole height of the building being 23, 24 feet. So if you were to shrink this down to that point right there, and we're using what we've always used as the main perimeter of the walls, all four, and where your mean height is the bottom of that gutter right there, or that right here, that's halfway point right there, and you measure there's 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, maybe 16. He's a foot off the property line. It's 4 foot rather than 3 foot.
I'm still trying to wonder what the practical difficulty is.
Like I said, on that street, if it was a setback issue or something along those lines, I'd have a lot easier time with it.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that,
It's not our,
I mean, we
Job
have denied
to-
a similar request based on, because I want to use the second story for a certain thing.
yeah.
Wouldn't this be 2 variances?
It is.
One for the height and one for the.
Yeah, and that's how it
Okay,
was
yeah.
noticed.
Yeah.
The other option is we table it till next month and we get better measurements.
Want to make a motion to that?
Yeah, I mean,
Because, I mean, we're kind of,
We're getting
I
out.
would, I really would like to table it and add on that
Postpone
we
or
have to
table?
do not an interview, a talk with Gary, and so we understand that mean height and where he's pulling that measurement from as we're waiting for that interpretation or clarification, I should say. Ask the homeowner to get exact measurements, so we don't have to, and Gary doesn't have to do approximate. Approximates don't help us at all.
right.
Practical difficulty right now, I mean, we go 100 different ways. But in the same token, at least let him come back with an accurate number, a mean height.
Right.
And Gary could, after I ask him again what it is, maybe clarify to the homeowner, to the architect, and maybe they can make some adjustments to the drawing before next month.
Right.
Can I ask the board a question?
Sure.
What is your target? Because the ordinance says one story, anything, and it has to be less than a 15-foot mean height, and I'm over that. So obviously you have some other mean height, because you're discussing mean height, target in mind, because you don't have the exact number. So whether I'm 16, 17, 22, 23, what is the target? What is the issue? Because I want to address your concerns.
I think he
I
needs,
want to know exactly, if we gave you this variance tonight, we're giving you a blank variance, and we have no idea what your height's going to be. You have approximate, and that doesn't work in our,
Our job is
yeah,
to
we
get-
can't do approximate, because how can we judge how we can't do
Understood.
approximate.
So
When
if-
Gary has approximate, that, it just throws a red flag to him, and which throws a red flag to us, where, hang on a second, we don't, just say we say no, and you take us to court, and the judge says, well, what's your question, what's
Understood.
the issue? We don't know, because we never even knew the number.
If
We
Gary's
just said, no, we
number
don't like
is,
the guy.
if his
what I mean?
calculation is correct, 22, is that acceptable to get to the board?
We can't
Tonight,
answer
we,
that.
yeah, that,
And that's why what I'm trying to do here, Brian, actually is to, I want to address the concerns. I want to understand the concerns so I can address it, number one. But then I could be back, I don't know if the next meeting is in a month or whatever, 2 weeks, whatever it is, then there's something else.
we could
So I
always
want
have a special meeting
clarity.
if you wanted to. I guess and maybe Dennis is trying to give you the opportunity to adjust your blueprints, make them so that they could fit within the ordinance, and you don't have to be here. But we can't tell you the corrections, we can't. There's something, the architect will have to read, and he'll have to, you'll have to speak with Gary to see if there's a little tweak that you can do. Right now, you're asking for two variances, the mean height. One, I'm questioning the mean height, okay, and that's just between Gary and I. So once he clarifies it with me one more time, which he already did, but once we look at that, your blueprint again, and figure out which roof line he's taking, that mean height, it could change what numbers you need to do. And there might be something your architect can do to change the numbers.
Yeah,
If you,
I'm not going to do anything because I don't understand the concern. I need direction, clarity. We'll clarify the number. We'll get an exact number on the mean height. But then I'm back here asking the same question. Until I understand what your concern is, because you're talking like I'm adjusting my proposal. No, I'm still asking for the same thing. We will clarify the mean height. So you've got good data to make whatever decision you want. But until I'm still,
all right, we can do it tonight. Gary, can I ask you one question? Which roof line are you you hitting? I just want to make sure.
If you're looking for difference between looking at it one way or the other,
Yep.
I can look at it both ways. Reason why I didn't look at that 4-foot side wings which you guys are looking
Yep.
at is because it only curtails a very small portion of the entire building. The main structure, the main building, it goes clear across with 8-foot walls. It's just those two, on each end that aren't at full, they're at the slant, like you would find in, a story and a half type situation. And because the majority of this building actually has 8-foot walls in it, that's why I'm looking at it that way. It says the height of the wall, plus then half the distance between the top of the wall and the peak. So that's why right away I'm going to add up the floor heights of the first. There's a 2-foot, I think, for the floor system, and then 8-foot for the second floor. That's where I get to that number right away. And basically because it does, encompass the majority, vast majority of that building. Way you're looking at it, I could do a little rake line, on the side, and if you're calling that, the mean height, I think we're missing the boat.
Before we would interpret it that if you took the dormers off, that is the main roof line. That's how I would look at it. And the main roof line, even though it's only 4 foot right now because they're adding the dormer, that would be my mean point. That I would take to the peak, to the gutters, to my mean, and not do the dormers in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and
Well,
if
here's
you're
the math.
calling that a dormer, I'm not sure how you get to that. Because on the one
Just
side,
put it
it
in.
goes all the way on both sides. It goes all the way up to 8 foot on that wall. It's only those end pieces. I think it's 4 foot on either side. One is where the stairway climbs up, so no loss there. The other side, I think, is just for aesthetics, to make it look uniform to either side. But the majority of that build, my opinion, is that we've got to incorporate and utilize that as full 2-story. And if we define it by looking at what is the mean height, we're going up to that 2nd-story wall before we then split the roof line from that point up, which is, like I say, the majority of this bill.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone this and send Mark back to Gary, and Gary can go through and explain to him what he's talking about. And
Yeah,
then
but
come,
I understand what he's
Gary
talking about.
can't do that. I mean, it's not up to Gary to, he can clarify things, but
clarify,
he's
we'll
not.
clarify.
he's not-
That's
he-
what you guys
he
are
just-
trying to do.
I'm here
Right,
to
he just-
request the 2nd story.
He understands that, though.
Under
You're-
Robert's
you're
rules of
trying
order,
to-
once there's a motion to table, there's no more discussion.
Okay.
I would second it.
Now, what did you just say to him?
I said that once there's a motion to table on the floor under Robert's Rules of Order, you are not allowed to discuss it any further until there's a vote.
Okay.
Roll call?
Bonnie,
Yes.
Dennis,
Sustain.
You can't
You can't.
sustain, you can't
You're here.
sustain.
Come on.
No.
Joanne,
Yes,
Joseph.
No. The alternates aren't voting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
it's just us.
But Sam's an alternate.
Yes,
Sam's an alternate. Right there.
it's you.
I know.
I'm always the decision breaker.
That's why you're the
Now,
leader.
can we say what what you voted yes, no, what you vote?
She didn't vote yet.
No,
She's,
okay.
I'm going to vote yes. Brian,
no. So it's tabled till next month for some clarification of exact numbers, okay?
On the mean height.
And the mean height,
Understood.
okay? And then if you want to ask questions to Gary, that's fine, but he's not gonna, you know what I mean? He's not gonna tell you what to do to get past this ordinance. He'll say yes or no, but I don't want to automatically just throw it back on Gary and say, let him figure it out for you. You know what I mean? That's your architect's job to figure it out, and then.
What am I trying to figure out? That's what I don't
I
understand.
think that's what Gary can explain to you.
Yeah,
To get to 15-foot mean
no,
height?
no, we want to know exactly from Gary's mean height interpretation, I want to know that number from the ground up.
We can have that tomorrow.
Okay,
And my point is, it's going to be over 15 feet. So in the board's mind, somebody's mind, they have a value that they don't want to exceed. It would help the process to understand what that is. You have, because obviously you've approved some in the past that are over 15 feet. This one, you want clarification on the exact number. So that indicates to me, you have some bogey, some number that you're trying to get to. If I told you it was 22 feet, if Gary tells you it's 22 feet, 23 feet, 18 feet, they're all asking for a variance. And that's what I'm trying to understand, because you talked earlier about me working with an architect. I don't know what to tell an architect to do right now. That's the issue that I'm trying to understand. I need some clarity.
If I could say, what would clarify that would be a scale drawing.
I guarantee you, understood, we can get that. I guarantee you it'll be over 15 feet. So it doesn't change anything from the board here. So there is a bogey, some number you guys are trying to.
There's not actually, there's not a number, there's nothing that we're gonna say, because
Okay.
if there was, we could have said, hey, you know what, we don't like this 22 feet, we're only gonna give you 22 feet, or 21 foot, you know, or a 6-foot variance
And
versus.
that's what I'm trying to
you know, But we
understand.
don't have that,
Yeah.
because that's not typically what we would do.
Okay.
If there's inches, or if there's something else, or, you know, some board members might not feel to get, you know what I mean, to do that. They're giving you, I guess,
So we got
a
three
pass
inches
to see if you can adjust the, you know, see if you can do something to your drawing to make it a little bit closer to the acceptable numbers, I guess, you would say. And then if not, go with scale drawings and say, hey, this is what it is,
So
and go
again,
for it again.
You said it
Mr.
again, what
Chairman,
is the
may I
acceptable
make a
number?
comment?
I don't have an acceptable number, that's what I'm getting. you
Each
know what I mean?
circumstance is different, each property we look at.
Right, there's not,
So
you know,
we're-
but there's,
I have no clear direction on what to go work on, other than define, my proposal is that drawing, and that's what I'm trying to get a decision on. If I understood what you're asking for, I could go talk to my architect and say, let's try this, do that. But I'm not making a one-story building right now.
I tell your architect that you have to work within a 15-foot mean height. And then if he's over that 15-foot, I want to know the exact number. However it is, I just want to know the exact number. If it's 7 feet over, that's all I want to know for the next meeting.
Okay,
Okay?
we got it.
Thank you.
I did have a secondary concern, this isn't new, with the way this one was noticed. Generally, they're noticed in the paper that they're seeking a variance of so many feet, or so many feet and inches. This one just set a height variance,
Right.
so I think we might want to renotice it once we know what that number is.
Right. Again, Gary, did he submit plans in scale at all, or no? Yeah, well, that right there is a no-no anyhow when you're applying for a building permit. Everything, you're supposed to have detailed scale drawings so that he could make that decision.
It's been tabled,
Yep.
Well, yeah,
and we're done.
you're right, but I'm just saying that that's.
We have more?
No, all three of those were one.
Oh, any unfinished business?
No.
Anyone? Report from planning commission?
I was not there at the last meeting. I do know they were working on a site plan for I want to say it's a dog kennel? Dog kennel? Yeah. I don't
Well, that was
know
at
what
the joint.
We had the joint meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all were at the joint meeting. It went very well. I thought it was, I think everyone got reacquainted with faces, and I thought it went great.
Did they have a separate meeting then?
I don't know if you guys, I think that was your
All one.
meeting. That was
Yeah.
your meeting. The joint meeting was your meeting, because I thought it went good. You know, no, I know you know, but I thought it went good.
That was a really good meeting, I thought.
That everybody spoke, everyone, you know, I already spoke the most, but, you know, it went good. I like the ones, you know, I did say that if the ZBA did get maybe 3 within the 1 year of similar variances, if it comes to this height, or if it comes to second story, or if it comes to fences, if we got 3 in a row and we approved or disapproved, or they, you know what I mean, we feel that maybe they need to
Change it.
look at that ordinance.
Yeah,
They were accepting that, said, you know, hey, you know, I'll say to all of us, hey, we got 3 in a row, I'll throw an email, say, hey, you gotta look at ordinance whatever, 127, or whatever, you know what I mean, and then they will.
Right.
yeah.
Because the last meeting we went, you know, they had an ordinance change, or rewrote and re-looked at. We weren't invited, not that we should be, but we didn't have any input to say, hey, well, we get this, we get hit with fences, we get hit with this. Not our job to go to, you know what I mean, and they don't have to ask our permission, but I just said, hey, if we get 3, and maybe our ordinances might have to switch.
Time- yeah,
Change.
time to
Time to
change,
change,
yeah.
you know. They have changed a lot, don't get me wrong, you know, with the boathouses, the fences, and this and that. I know this second story is coming up a lot, so is, there's a couple things that are coming up that might have to be relooked at, but it's not our job to change them.
Right.
So we'll just, okay. That was your meeting. We're
Thank you.
good.
All right, good.
Anything else from ZBA? I just think I just spoke for me. Public comments? Why don't you guys come up and speak, so get used to it? Come up, state your name, say how you like the meeting. No?
It was pretty entertaining.
All right, thank you.
Can I ask you another question? I forgot myself. When do I come back? We'll get the answer.
The next meeting.
If we
Yes.
have everything we need.
Yep.
When it's tabled,
Stated.
That's gonna be, that'll be, an additional fee for you, and I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know how that works in that, you know what I mean? I wouldn't if I was you, but,
Depending on the notification issue.
and it has to be a minimum, it has to be, in the paper, 2 weeks
In advance.
in advance. Do we have to notify that? For a special one, we would. But we tabled his.
We did, but I still think we need to look at the way it was noticed without having.
How about this? We need to put in the paper what the variance request is. If it's a 7-foot variance request for the mean height, or if it's a 6-foot, whatever your architect tells Gary with that scale drawing that that he'll need. And then, what do you mean?
No, that's the way it's always
You
been.
should- We should never have any approximate numbers. That's why it was floored to me when, we read it, approximate, you know what I mean?
I don't think we've ever had a.
Yeah, usually, you know what I mean? And just because Gary and I are, we're interpreting, the mean height differently, I'm corrected now, because that's how I don't have to be the one to interpret it. He is the interpreter, you know what I mean? So he just told me how to interpret it for now.
Because I would have addressed it if I would have known. I didn't know. And so that's why I was asking.
Yes, yeah.
So why wasn't I notified ahead of time that that number was not provided? Was not asked to provide that number. So I could save the money.
But we're asking for the number now. You know,
Telling me you didn't part of your current process, so when I turned all the paperwork in, nobody said it was missing. That's my point.
no, not necessarily. It's not that sort of, but now I want to know the exact amount because I brought it up.
So it's not part of your process. All of that number.
How about this, part of the process would have been a scale drawing for you. I mean, he couldn't approve your print how it's drawn the way it is. He noticed there's two different, that you had to automatically go in front of the ZBA to clarify or give permission to do. I think he was actually doing you a favor to send you in front of us to see if you're going to get passed. But right now, I'm trying to do you a favor and give me that number, and then.
I didn't talk to Gary, I talked to Cindy.
Cindy's great, but Gary is our building official. He's the only one that can answer any of those technical questions, period. No one in this whole building can answer any of those building questions but Gary.
I want to address the board's concerns, but I just need to know upfront. And I try to do my due diligence asking those questions. Looks like not having the scale drawing is what you're telling me is kind of the cause of some of this.
I think it would have helped our discussions. How about that?
All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, close public comments.
Motion to adjourn?
motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.